Gauranga Gura Tamagopyara Kopa Arevatidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavadam Satoranam Gura Tamagopyara Kopa Tama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridoya Dadiya Bola Vaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangira Namure Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamada Pranare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama Pumata Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Mudgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathabda Vrajabala Vapahimam Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So reading from Prema-bhakti-candrika, second chapter, text 19 and maybe text 20. We can offer this prayer first to Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Varshi Vatra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Varaya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Tasmai Namo Nama Shri Narottam. Again and again I offer my obeisances to Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is a true follower of Lord Gauranga Deva. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness of ignorance. So I'll go ahead and put our verse for today on the board also. This is a very beautiful verse. I'm so sorry that we had some trouble starting, but this such a nice verse. Pritagabasa joge Dukkha moya vishabhage Vrajavasis Govinda Sevan krishna-katha Krishna nama Satya rasadama Vrajaloka Shange anukshan. He says that pritag abhasa joge, we living in places that are pritag, just some separate thing, something separate from Vrindavan. Those places are just dukkha moya vishaya bhage. They're just full of misery, vishaya sense gratification, bhage. Braja basa govinda seva. Rather, we should live in Braj and we should serve Govinda Krishna. And how do we do that in Braj? Krishna-katha Krishna nama Satya rasadama Vrajaloka Sangi anukshan. Because if we reside in the Dham and we do Krishna-katha and we chant Krishna Nam, then Satya rasadam. Narottam Das Thakur says, in truth, twice he says, Satya, 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 this is a fact. You're really living in the Dham. You're living in the Dham with rasa. Because that's the only way that you can enter the Dham. It's the only way you can associate with the devotees of Braj. And it's only by associating with the Vrajavasis that we can actually enter into the Dham. Vrajaloka Sangi Anukshana. We have to always be wanting to associate with those devotees. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I'll read over his commentary, you can see here. He explains that the word abhasa joge means that we should make some residence, we should build some residence. But he says that all the places aside from Braj are mundane. And there's just the modes of material nature and misery there. If someone lives in some place other than Braj, then you're just going to suffer in material life. But if you live in Braj, then you can happily worship the lotus feet of Govinda. And if we're unable to personally reside in Braj, then one can mentally do so and still get the happiness of worshiping Krishna. But if you reside in Braj, but you're not worshiping Krishna, then you won't get any happiness from residing in Braj. And he says in this connection, Kaviraj Goswami stated in the following verses. And then the following two verses are given in Prema-bhakti-candrika. We'll see if we get that far with these. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Goloruhadam Goranga Gudatama Gopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami. So today, we'd like to go on a journey through the consciousness of some different personalities. We're hearing from Narottam Das Thakur, and we'd like to all try to go completely mad today. And so to facilitate our madness, we're going to associate with an ecstatic madman whose name is Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. And it's Vrindavan Mahimamrita in Sataka 4, the 4th chapter, text 61. He says, Sarva Dukkha Dasagora Vadam Vrindavanestu me pratikra prakratasena vibhutir apinanyataha. He said, I let me suffer Sarva Dukkha Dasa, all the different sufferings of Vrindavan, all the Gora things, all the things which are really horrible and terrible. And there's some pretty ghastly things sometimes in Vrindavan. Let me do that. I'll accept that as vada. Vada means it's a great benediction. If I can just be in Vrindavan. I don't want to be in any other place. Even if in those other places, I'm living in the spiritual world. And I have all vibhuti, I have all spiritual opulence. I have an AC that turns on when I just think about it. I don't even have to glance at it or anything, or point a remote. It just comes on with my mind. And automatically, there's no need for it anyway, because the temperature is always very, very good. So this is Vrindavan. And this is the desire of Narottam Das Thakur that he's expressing here. I want to reside in this place. Krishna Kun, could you bring me your keyboard? There's a nice song that I can sing a little bit in this regard. This is an old Prema-bhakti-candrika that we came across. Let's see. Jandira madhuri sindhu smaritara eka bindu ati lugda hoyachi ami. Katipoya shloka kore brajadama parikari bhakti bhari tanha sabinami. He says that because I have this lubda, this greed, that I can get even just a drop, that I can just remember even just a drop of that Madhuri Sindhu, that ocean of their beauty. Because of that, I'm bowing down to Radha Krishna and to Vrindavan Dham and to all of Radha Krishna's associates, Brajadama Pradikari, in these verses. Let's see. Evam chahoy prani, nicha kori darasani pranamora jugala kishore. Vrajavasis sangavas, macha abilas, sevi asapune koromo. He says that I have this vancha, this desire, hoya prani in my heart. Nitya Kori Darashana, that I always want to see the Yugal Kishore, Pranamura Yugal Kishore, that divine couple, Radha Krishna, who are Pranamura, my life and soul. And to get that, Vrajabasi Sangabas, Matya Abilas, I have this Abilas. I just only want to associate with the Vrajavasis. Because in their association, say asa puna koromora, that asa, that desire that I have to render service will be fulfilled. This is the desire of the devotees. This is the desire that Narottam Das Thakur expresses. Prema-bhakti-candrika is really, it's a simple book in some ways, but it's also a postgraduate discussion about bhakti. And he doesn't just want some mechanical bhakti, but he's aspiring for Braj Bhav. Does she have some computer or phone or something?
The phone is recording.
You need that right. Sure. Okay. Again, Prabodhananda Saraswati. He says it, Jari Brindavana Bindam Yapi Turnatate Vanam Padesi. Natada Vikunta Lakshmim Apikara Militam Nibhale Lalitam. She said he's praying to Vrindavan. Jari means if. My dear Vrindavan, even if I find that I take birth as a blade of grass in Vrindavan, and someone were to offer me that, no, you can go to Vaikuntha, and you can associate with all the Vaikuntha Vasis and have your own palace and everything. He said, no, I don't want that. I'm not interested in that at all. And he's such a wonderful madman, Prabodhananda Saraswati. Let me share this verse with everybody here. This is from the second Sataka. It's one of my favorite verses of Prabodhananda Saraswati. He says that Vrindaranye Varamsham Premier Api Paramona Chidananda Deho Rankopi Sham Atulya Paramihana Paratrad Bhutananam Tabutihi Sunyo Pisha Mihashi Hari Bhajana Levenati Tucharita Matre Lubdo Nanyata Gopi Jana Ramana Padamboja Dikshu Suke Pi. He says that I would rather live in Vrindavan as a worm and stool than to be a gopi, than to be someone who has love for Krishna like the gopis, but they're living in New York or Lithuania or any other place. Even if I'm overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna, I want to be in Vrindavan. So important is Vrindavan. Why is Vrindavan so important? We want to discuss some of that today. A few verses later, in the next Sataka, actually, Prabodhananda Saraswati, again, he speaks this time about the glories of the insects in Braj. Vande Vrindavana Gatamaham Bhakti Bharavanamro Danyagranyam Krimim Apinachanyatra Samstam Tunaya Manye Brahmadika Sudaganam Kimbohucha Mameyam Prodirgadana Kalupadato Bhakti Krishna Pipurnaha. He says that I do my vandana to Vrindavan Dham. That Vrindavan Dham is such a wonderful, exalted place. He says, I offer my obeisances to the devotees there who have become worms or insects, krimi, worm and stool in Vrindavan. He says that I don't consider Manye Brahmadika Suraganam, Lord Brahma and all the Suragana, the demigods, to be so significant. They're just like a blade of grass. Who cares about them? He says, what can I say? My mind is made up. Because outside of Vrindavan, Nakuluparatavati Krishno Pipurnaha. Krishna is not Purnatama. He's not complete in any other place. And I want to be there in Vrindavan. I want that thing. Of course, he's speaking like this, but we know that in Vrindavan, there's no suffering, there's no problems or anything. Prabodhananda Saraswati in our acharyas have glorified Vrindavan in so many different ways. Even he's glorifying the insects here. But what to speak of the insects, even the non-moving living entities, like the grass and the trees. Brindadaka nuta brinda vipini lata sakiguru mananam. Brindadaka ihanandata mandamandara koti bi kimbaha. He says that the trees and bushes and blades of grass in Vrindavan, they're all full of ecstasy. He says, what do we care about the demigods? Those demigods, they're all worshiping the non-moving living entities in Vrindavan. He says, what's the use? Kotibir of tens of millions of mandara trees. Mandara tree is a special sacred tree, auspicious tree in the heavenly planets. Prabodhananda Saraswati prays in this way, I would rather be a blade of grass, I'd rather be an insect in Vrindavan. And what to speak of taking birth like that, Prabodhananda Saraswati assures us that just if you hear about Vrindavan, just if you get some chance to hear about the glories of Vrindavan. Again, in Vrindavan Mahamamrita, he says, Vrindavana guna vrindanye anisam amandana ragena yovana yati sumakarnayati harimso dhammanayati. Someone who's always with great love describing and hearing about the virtues of Vrindavan makes Krishna greatly indebted to that person. So wonderful is Vrindavan. What to speak of is someone lives there, is someone just hears about Vrindavan. It's such a wonderful, exalted, amazing place. So this is a desire of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Narottam Das Thakur is telling us here that anywhere else outside of Vrindavan is just a place of suffering. And we have no interest in that. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila chapter 22, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about the five most potent forms of bhakti. He says, Sadhu Sangha nama-kirtana, Bhagavat Shravan, Mathura Vasa Shrimurtara Shradaya Sevan. These five processes, Sakala Sadhana Shrestha E Pancha Anga. These five things are the best of all. Krishna Prema Janmaya E Panchara Upasanga. Just you get a little touch of these five limbs of bhakti and you get Krishna Prema. So what are these five limbs of bhakti? If you contemplate on it, as we were speaking recently, maybe I'll speak about this verse again tomorrow here in Gokul. It goes in kind of sequence. The first thing is Sadhu Sangha. Because when you first come, you don't really have faith in the holy name. But you meet some devotee and wow, these guys are really saintly. And from them, you associate with them. And from that association, you say, hey, you should come on Thursday night to the Bhakti Center in New York, and we have this kirtan night. Or as they do in Agar, that they have, kirtan jam. And the devotees bring guitars and different things, and so many people come, and it's quite ecstatic. So some people will have faith in sadhu. A lot of people don't even have that. But that faith in sadhu is the beginning of faith. If you have faith in sadhu, then you can get some higher faith and go to nama-kirtana. To go beyond nama-kirtana is a very difficult thing. The next stage is Bhagavat Shravan, to hear the Bhagavatam. There's some devotees who have some faith in sadhus. They like my friend Madhav because he has so many body piercing and tattoos and far out hair and things. He must be really cool. He's such a sweet devotee. And from him we get nama-kirtana. But Bhagavat Shravan, I don't know. We have some doubts about that. That's a higher class of faith. But if someone comes to have faith in Bhagavat Shravan and hearing the Bhagavatam, then they may come to the point of Mathurabhas. They realize, oh, I want to live in the Dham. I want to live with the Vrajavasis. And from there comes the final, most elevated type of faith, which is Srimurtir Seva. Srimurtir Shradaya Seva. That all of these Srimurtir Shradaya Seva, and you do the service, all these things are leading up to service. We're doing Sadhu Sangha, and the fruit of Sadhu Sangha is service. The fruit of nama-kirtana is service. We're praying to Krishna for service. Bhagavat Shravan, the fruit is service. Mathurabhas, the fruit is service. And what happens if we're doing that nicely, then Krishna manifests before us in the form of the deity. And we should have faith in that form, and we should render service. So the Vrajavasis, in the prayers of Lord Brahman, the 14th chapter, the 10th canto, he says that Yadhamartha Surit Priyata Matanaya Panayasayas Tvat Krite. That the Vrajavasis, they love their bodies. They also love their bodies. They also love their homes. They love their children, relatives. But they only love them because of their connection with Krishna, not independently. As we were mentioning previously, in Prabhupada's translation of the Passion of Putana, when Putana enters into Braj, she took the form of a beautiful woman. And Prabhupada comments in his translation, which is not found in the Sanskrit, but Prabhupada comments in his translation of that the men in Vrindavan, they were all looking at Putana. Wow, she's really beautiful. And I found that very, very interesting. And it says several things. One thing is that it's not wrong for, contrary to what sometimes devotees think in ISKCON, it's not wrong for women to be beautiful. And it's not that the residents of Vrindavan don't notice that. But as we understand from this verse in the 14th chapter, the 10th canto, they may have some attraction to it, but it's connected with Krishna. They'll be looking, oh, she's very beautiful. She'd be a good wet nurse, a good mother for Krishna. She'd be a good personality for Krishna. It's not, there's no independent lust. There's no concept of that whatsoever in Braj. Now, I'd like to just read to you today mostly some descriptions from literatures about the glories of Vrindavan, and especially about the glories of the Vrajavasis. So next, I'd like to go to Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu, and he explains something about the nature of Vrindavan. Yastambhataka miduvatakam Yastambhataka miduvatakam pita nanamuki bhavam iti puna punaha surabhyamayati yadayatastada vivritya pasyanti disham mamuniva. That in Vrindavan, everything is connected with Krishna. And he speaks about the pataka. Pataka means the flags in Vrindavan. And in ordinary flags, they point in the direction of the wind. The wind blows and the flags go in that way. But in Vrindavan, all the flags point in the direction of the fragrance of Krishna's body. When the fragrance of Krishna's body permeates the air and touches those flags, then all the flags, they turn. Doesn't matter, the wind's blowing the complete opposite direction. But the flags, they point in the direction of Krishna's fragrance. Jiva Goswami describes about the glories of Golok. Loka Srinata Loka Prati Ruchi Vijahi Kananam Sri Spri Yajid Vasasri Rajadani Nikila Subarucham Vasinastita Eva Bhokta Krishna Sobhogya Pranaya Madhurimasasvarigam Asmin Pratekam Sarvam Anta Karanamati Gatam Kas Tat Antam Labhetam. It says that Goloka's beauty surpasses Vaikuntha. And the forest of Vrindavan exceeds the desires of Lakshmi. In Goloka, all the auspicious splendor of Vaikuntha resides. There's no equal to the inhabitants of Goloka. Krishna is the enjoyer there, and the sweetness of prema is to be enjoyed constantly. Krishna surpasses the individual and collective minds of all persons who can find an end to his glories. So this is the nature of Braj. Jiva Goswami comments, Atta sarvata kshemanam saeva prema sarvata spurati. Of all the auspicious things in this world, Krishna prema is the most auspicious. And then Jiva Goswami, perhaps in his ecstasy, becomes kind of transcendentally confused, and he says, Hari prema sakshad eva bhavati kim va brajajanas tayor ekasmimscha spurati sahisasvat spurati naham idam varam vidisiva sarasi prabritaya sputam kartum shaktim dadati nataram ki yat kiyadapi. He says, I don't know. Hari prema sakshat? Is Krishna directly prema? Eva bhavati kimva brajajanas. Are the people of Braj directly prema? He says, when this prema appears in either Krishna or his devotees, then it also appears in me. And although Lord Brahma, idam varam vidisivasva sadasi pravitayaha, although Lord Brahma, Shiva, and Narad Muni, they want to reveal this prema, but they don't have the power to do so. Therefore, Satu Paramascharya Charyaha, this prema is the most astonishing thing. Krishna is a personification of that prema. And therefore, Krishna Das Thakur Goswami, in his Govinda Lilamrita, in his Mangalacharana, he describes in a very beautiful verse. I'll share this with you. Okay, like this. He says, Gokulaya Gokulam Ninye, Gokulam Gokulaya Haran, Gokulam Gokula Strinam, Gokulaya Gokuleshwaraha. Gokulaya Gokulam Ninye. The Lord of Gokul drove his cows. Gokul also means to drive the cows. As he entered Gokul, stealing the senses, Gokul means to steal the senses of the young girls of Gokul and the eyes of the people of Gokul. Vrindavan is a place of prema. And as we were saying a few days ago on Sunday in our session, that if we contemplate the matter, we speak about community. We can see different levels of community. We can see community in Manasamhita, in a very rigid, formulaic way of laws and rules and things. Better than that, when the residents are doing things with some love. But far better than that, in that Vedic culture, is the culture, the community of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the residents of Vrindavan in particular, who are doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. But even better than that community is the community that we find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is dedicated to the gopis and the manjaris of Braj who are serving Srimati Radharani. So there are different levels, and in Braj in general, everyone, they're completely absorbed by Krishna. And that love that they have, they're attracted by Krishna, but then they also tie Krishna up himself. in the Hari Bhakti Sutta Doya, Krishna says, Siddham Muktopi Badhosmi Bhaktina Sneharaju Vyajitopi Soham Taidivasopi Vasikritaha. That although I'm Mukunda, I'm eternally free, still I become bound up with the rope of love of my devotees. And this especially is referring to the Vrajavasis. Narad Muni in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita describes the glories of the Vrajavasis. And he says here that some people say that the Vrajavasis are bewildered by Krishna, that they're just so much in love with Krishna they can't stop thinking of him. And he says, Narad Muni says, people who say like that don't really understand the fact. Krishnena na braja jana kila mohitaste taisavya mohi bhagavan iti satyameva gadva mayaiva sahi vismita deva karyo nusmadita kimapi kritya moho katanchit. He says that's not the fact that the Vrajavasis were bewildered by Krishna. Krishnena na brajajana kila mohi taste. It's not that they were, but rather taisavya mohi bhagavan iti satyameva. Satyam. The truth is that it was Krishna who was bewildered by them. The love of the Vrajavasis is so powerful that Krishna became completely bewildered thinking of Vrajavasis. He says, this is Satya, this is the truth. So much so, Gatva mayaiva sani vismita deva karyo. I had to remind Krishna. Krishna completely forgot. Narad Muni said I had to go and say, Krishna, look, you came here for some work. You're supposed to paritanaya sadhanam vinashaya tadushritam. You got to protect the demigods. You got to kill the demons. What are you doing? You can't just lay around in Vrindavan, always with the gopis and Mother Yashoda and Nandamars and things. You have some business that you have to get done for the demigods and that. And Krishna says, oh, that's right. So Rupa Goswami, very famously in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is given an important verse that if we want to make spiritual advancement in a very deep way, when we talk about what is Raganuga Bhakti, of spontaneous love, Rupa Goswami says, Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi Tadbhava Lipsana Karya Braja Lokanasarataha. That we have to follow after some particular resident of Braj. And we meditate Siddha Rupena on their eternal form. And we meditate in our form, Siddha Rupa ourselves, serving them. And with the desire for a particular type of bhav. It's my theory, which I haven't ever found evidence for, smoking gun evidence, but it's my theory that it was for this reason that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave us our Gaudiya Panjika, our Panji or Panjika, our calendar, in which he wrote himself, and he gave so many different appearance days and different disappearance days of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because we meditate on them and we meditate on their Braj Roop, their form in Braj, and also their form in this material world. And that it's like a bridge. It's easier for us through Gaur Leela to meditate upon them. We meditate on our Gurudev, serving Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, serving Raghunath Das Goswami, who in turn is serving Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda, who are serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is our system. So we want to enter into the Dham, but we should understand that it's not such a simple thing. It's not just that we just buy a ticket and we go to Vrindavan and that's it. You know, I'm in Vrindavan now and I'm a Vrajavasi because I've gotten a ticket here somehow. But we should understand the nature of that Dham. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Navadvita Mahatmya has explained the science of this. And he says that Ati karma dosha jaya vaishnaviti dvesha tarimaya anda kori deya nana klesha. Then the form of Mahamaya, Proto-Maya Devi, she's a servant of Gauranga Mahaprabhu in the Dham, and she binds up and he gives misery to persons who envy the Vaishnavas. Sarva papa sarva karma heta hoyakshoy, Proto-Maya vidyarupe kori karma loy. That in the form of transcendental knowledge, Proto-Maya Devi, she sarva papa sarva karma, she dissolves all different sins and karma. But kintu, if, kintu jari Shri Vaishnave aparadi take tabe dura koritari kamera vipake. If someone is offended a Vaishnava, then Proto-Maya, who's that energy of the Lord who covers the Dham, keeps that person away from the Dham. And she gives him tabi dura koritar karmira vipake. She gives him all kinds of problems. She gives that person all kinds of troubles with karma. Problems with wives, and problems with boyfriends, and problems with children, and problems with legal things, and so many different problems. And they're not able to enter into the Dham. It's a potent thing to think about when we want to enter the Dham. And so many of us, either we've had difficulties entering the Dham in that way, or we've seen different friends and different devotees having difficulty entering the Dham. And they're not thinking about it, but Bhaktivinoda directly speaks about it here. That if we've done some offense to the Vaishnavas, in particular, he says, Vaishnaviti dvesha. Dvesha means envy. If we have some envy of the Vaishnavas, then Proto-Maya won't allow us in the Dham. Even though that Proto-Maya energy, she dissolves all of our sins and all of our karma, and the Holy Dham is so merciful. And Proto-Maya, she, through that, she's the energy in the Dham who dissolves all those bad obstacles for us. But at the same time, if we're envious of the Vaishnavas, or kintu jari Shri Vaishnave aparada take, we've done some aparad with the Vaishnavas, then she keeps those persons away, and she gives them all the troubles of karma. So Bhaktivinoda goes on to describe, maybe I should put some of these on the board here also. These are beautiful verses. Translated sometime back. This is chapter 18 from Navadvip Mahatmya. We should think of these things. Bhaktivinoda Thakur works so hard writing his books. He's given us so much subtle science of Krishna consciousness. Dhamma madhya kabu nahi jada avishtiti. He says that in the Dham, Dhamma madhya means situated, madhya means middle, it means within. In the holy Dham, kabu nahi jada avishtiti. Jada means something mundane. There's no mundane influence in the Dham. Jada bada jiva, those conditioned souls and materialistic persons, nahi paya hetu gati. They can't enter into the Dham. Emphatically. It's just not possible for them to enter into the Dham. In a similar way, we're here in New Gokul, and it is so nice. Krishna Kona are just in complete ecstasy. It's so quiet. You can hear the grass moving sometimes in the wind. It's just so quiet. There's nobody here. And with some children and things, but the children are very ecstatic and they have things to do. But there's nice Govardhan Hill and Radhakund and Shamakund and wonderful darshan and kirtans going on. But still, the Dham's being manifested here through the holy name. But for those persons who are materialistic, they can't really enter into it. They can't enter into this kind of Dham, which is originally created, or an example of it being created by Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and Rama Kelly. They created the Vrindavan Dham there. And Prabhupada later wrote in the purposes of ISKCON, one of the purposes was to create sacred place of pilgrimage. And now we have so many Govardhan Hills all over the world, and so many Radhakunds and different sacred places. But they're sacred in as much as the devotees are there and we're doing kirtan. Otherwise, we can't actually perceive it. Dhamira upare jadamaya patim jal Achadiya Rake E Dhamma Chiraka. That Maya eternally covers the Dham with a layer of dull matter. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jara Nahika Sambandha Jalera Upari Vasa Korise Anda. Someone who doesn't have a sambandha or connection with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta explains, and we oftentimes quote, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an extended subject. And if it's our desire to worship him, we have to worship all of his manifestations, which includes the form of Sri Guru. So we establish our sambandha with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Gurudev. And if we don't have a relationship with him, then Jalera Upare. Upare means you're living on top. Upare Basa, you're living on top of the Dham. Korise Anda. And Anda means blind. You're blind to what's really going on in the Dham. You can't really see. Mai Bhave Amiachi Nabadvipa Puri, Prodamaya Mugda Kori, Raki Tada Dure. Someone's thinking to themselves in their mind, Manabhavi, Amiachi Nabadvipa Puri, I'm living in Mayapur. I'm living in Navadvip. But in actuality, Prodamaya Mugda, Mugda means bewildered, Prodamaya Mugda Kori Raki Tari Dure. Prodamaya, Raki is binding that person up and keeping a Tari Dure. Dure means some distance away. She's keeping that person very far away from the Dham. But Jari means if, Jari Kona Bhagya Gyadaye Sadhu Sanapai. If we get the associate, we have this good fortune, Bhagyadayi, Sadhu Sangapai. I think it's a mistake in the spelling here. I don't think it would be Sadhu. It would be like that. Sadhu Sangapai. Tabi Krishna Chaitanya Sambandha Asi Toy. If we get that association with the devotees, then we'll establish our Sambandha with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Narottam Das Thakur, he's teaching us in Prema-bhakti-candrika here that we have to associate with, we want to associate the Dham, we want to be in the Dham, but to be in the Dham, Kritagabhasa Jogi, Dukamaya Bishai Bhagi, Vrajavasis Govinda Seva, it means to serve Govinda. It means to give up our residence in this place where everyone's trying to enjoy themselves like anything. It means to be living with krishna-katha and Krishna-nam, Satya Rasa Dham. In truth, that's the real Rasik Dham. That's the real place of Rasa. Vrajaloka Shangi Anukshana, in association there with the Vrajavasis. This is a conclusion that Narottam Das Thakur is giving us. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has spoke about this in many different places, as is Narottam Das Thakur and some others also. In Kolina Kalpataru, Bhaktivinoda prays to Yoga Maya Devi, Kula Devi Yoga Maya Mori Kripa Koi. Kula Devi means that she's the goddess of our Kula, of our family. She's the goddess of our Gaudiya Vaishnava family. Kula Devi Yoga Maya Mori Kripa Koi. When are you going to be merciful to me? And what is a symptom of your mercy? Abharana Sambari Be Kabe Vishwadari. That you're going to remove this veil of illusion in front of me. He says, Edasi Janani Kori Akaita Badoy. Please give me, please give the servant, Janani, you're my mother. This is a mother who's very merciful. So you give me this Akaita Badoya, this mercy without any cheating. Brindabani Dehastan to me, Yoga Maya. Please give me residence in Vrindavan. This is my prayer to Yoga Maya Devi. And to get that, again, he prays to Yoga Maya, Nishkapata hoy mata chava morapani, Vaishnava Bishvas, Vidhi, Haka Pratikani. He says that, my dear mother, I'm praying that this Vishvasa, this faith in the Vaishnavas will arise in my heart, so that I can, with sincerity, Nishkapata hoya mata, I can serve them, I can associate them with them without any cheating, in a sincere, honest way, in a natural way. Whereas so many Vaishnavas, so many persons are aspiring, we're doing something, but it's not always natural. It's unnatural a lot of times because we have some other desires and our mind is only partly there. So he's praying in this way to Yoga Maya. Vaishnava Charana Bhina Bhava Parabar Bhakati Binoda Nari Hoi Par. Without taking shelter of the Vaishnavas. He said it's just not possible. So there's so many different Vaishnavas in so many different places. But the Vaishnavas of Braj are very, very special. Raghunath Das Goswami has given us his Braj Vilas Stava, which are very, very ecstatic prayers. For those of you who know a little literature, it's somewhat like Rupa Goswami's Radha Krishna Ganadesh Deepika. There's Kavi Karnapur's Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, which describes the personalities, the associates of Mahaprabhu and who they are in Braj Leela. But the Radha Krishna Ganadesh Deepika, Rupa Goswami describes what Krishna looks like, what Radharani looks like, what Nanda Maharaj looks like, what Mother Yashoda looks like, what kind of sari Lalita wears. She wears a kind of bluish sari that looks like peacocks on it. And so does Rupa Manjari, her follower. And what kind of husband do they have? What kind of service do they do? And describes all about the glories of Braj. So in text 39, he offers a prayer glorifying the residents of Braj, which is very much in the mood of what we're hearing today from Narottam Das Thakur. Tunikritya sparam sukha jaladisaram sputam api swakiyam premnam yivadanikara namra marari poho sukhabhasam sasvat pratayitam alam prodakutukad gatante tan danyan param ihabhaji madhavaganam. He says that I worship all the Madhava Gana, all the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. And what is the symptom of the devotees of Braj? They consider their sukha, their happiness, to trinakritya, they consider their happiness to be like a blade of grass. You're walking around here today, how often do you think about one individual blade of grass and what it's doing? It's so insignificant, it doesn't even come to your mind. That's how much they think of their own personal pleasure. Rather, to always absorb sukha bhasam sasvat pratayitum alam pravodakutaka. They're always thinking about how can we give pleasure to Krishna. This is the nature of Braj. Braj is not just a physical place that we want to go to, we want to get a ticket and we go to Vrindavan, but Braj is consciousness. And it's not that we establish Braj just by making a pile of dirt and calling it Govardhan Hill, or maybe taking a stone from Govardhan and putting on it. But it's the consciousness of the Vrajavasis that make Vrindavan so very, very special. So Raghunath Das Goswami in this verse, he's praising all the associates of Krishna in Braj, meaning both the famous ones and those who are not very well known either. They're all so very, very special. The nature of the Vrajavasis is they only want to please Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Anjalila chapter 20, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is described about the Shikshastika prayers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in there, he's given some Bengali translation, Bhavuk, Bhavanuvad, we call it, a Bhavuk translation, meaning of these verses. And so, let's show one of them to you here. Very nice. Nagani apana duk sabbe vanshi kanya suk Tanra Shuka Amara Tatparja. More Jadi Dia Duk Tanra Hoila Mahasuk Say Duka More Shuka Bharya. This is a prayer of Srimati Radharani and her followers. She says that I don't mind my own distress, my own duk, upon a duk. Sabe Vancha Tanra Shuk. The only thing that I want is the happiness of Krishna. His happiness is the goal of my life. But Mora Jadi Dia Duk, if Krishna wants, if he gets happiness by giving me unhappiness and problems, then Tanya Hoya Mahasu, that's ecstasy for me. Say Dukkha Mora Sukha Bharya. That distress is the best of my happiness. This is the pulse of Vrindavan. It's not just that we speak about some of the external leelas of Vrindavan, or the form of the trees and what the ground looks like and what Radhakund looks like and this and that. That's also there. But we want to know what is the consciousness of the Vrajavasis. And this verse is describing here in such a beautiful way that Radharani and the Gopis, all the residents of Vrindavan, they don't mind upon a duk, their own unhappiness. All that they want is for Krishna's happiness. And if Krishna gets some happiness by giving me distress and problems, that distress, that's my greatest happiness. That's my greatest pleasure. This is the consciousness of Vrindavan. A very, very difficult thing to understand. Pretty Sundarbha Jiva Goswami also describes this. Vishaya anukulyatmakas tadanakulyanugata tatspriha tat anubhava hetu kolasamoya jnana vishesha priyata. If you want to accomplish something favorable, to get some happiness, so the object of life is that happiness is our desire to serve Krishna. That desire that whatever is favorable for Krishna, that's our happiness. That's the very life, Jiva Goswami says. That's the very life of our Bhava. It's the very life of our Krishna prema. The Vrajavasis, they're thinking Mora Putra, Mora Saka, Mora Pranapati. They're thinking Mora. They have the sense that Krishna belongs to me, mamata. In the Madhya Lila chapter 8 of Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Ramananda Samvad, Mahaprabhu keeps saying, Ehobaya Agekahara. This is good, this is nice, but can you say something more? It's a little external. And finally, then Ramananda Roy speaks about Krishna prema. And Mahaprabhu says, this is also good, but is there something more than that? And it's not until he begins to speak about this mamata. Mamata means a sense that this person belongs to me. And in any deep relationship, there's always that sense. We see a young boy and girl, they get married, and she's so happy because it's my husband. And the boy says, it's my wife. And there's a sense of mamata, possessiveness there. When a mother gives birth to a child, she's feeling love when she sees the child and the beauty of the child, but she's also feeling something. It's my baby. It belongs to me. So that sense of mamata has to be there, and that sense of mamata is not there in Shantaras. But that sense of mamata is there in the purest form in Braj. And therefore Srimati Radharani, she prays, Yugayitam nimishena chakshisha pravishaitam shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahiname, that even a moment of separation from Krishna, that's like a yuga. And tears are flowing from my eyes and feeling all vacant in the world. When Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami translates that verse, he says the following. Vraja Vishuddha Prema Jina Jambu Nadi Hema Atma Sukha Jahanahi Ganga Se prema janate loke prabhu koila e shloke pare koila artirani bhanda. He says that this Vraja Vishuddha Prem, this Prem of Vraj, it's Vishuddha Prem, it's spotless, pure love of Prem. And it's just like the gold. Jena Jambu Nada Hema. Hema means gold. It's just like the gold that you find in the Jambu River. And in the nature of this love, Atma Sukha Jahan Nahi Ganda. Atma Sukha means their own pleasure. Jahan Nahi Ganda. There's not even a fragrance of their own pleasure there. Just try to understand, as we were speaking a few days ago about Mahaprabhu's bhajan and Gambhira, we wanted to understand some of the seemingly external activities of Mahaprabhu, his dealings with Ramachandra Puri and others there in the Gambhira, because by seeing his activities, we understand how intensely dedicated and one-pointed we have to be if we really want to attain that Braj Bhav. So this verse is describing the same way. This is the nature of this Braj Prem. It's Vishuddha Prem. It's spotless. It's like pure gold in the Jambu River. Atma Sukha Jahan Nahi Ganda. There's no trace of any desire for even a small fragrance of desire for their own pleasure. Se prema janatari lok prabhu koila e shlok pari koila artira nirbanda. And he says that Mahaprabhu's purpose in giving this verse, Yugaitam Nimeshina Chakshisha Bhavishaitam, the reason why Mahaprabhu wrote this verse was to advertise the love of Braj in this world. And by writing this verse, he's expanded on the meaning of the love of Braj, that it's just as pure as the gold found in the Jambudari River. There's no stain in it. There's no stain in the love of Braj. So, Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur in his Vrindavani Maimamrita again, he describes that there's different classes of devotees. Dhanya loke namuksha hari bhajana paro dhanya dhanyas tato so. He says someone is dhanya who desires mumuksha or to become liberated. That's a very, very rare person. How many people do we know in this world who want to become liberated, even amongst devotees? Right? How many do we know like that? He says, but even better than that, Hari Bhajana Paradanya. Even more fortunate, Paradanya is someone who's doing bhajan of Krishna. And he says that Danya Ya Krishna Padambu Jarati. Someone's even more fortunate than that, who has some rati, some attraction to Krishna's lotus feet. But even more better than that, Rukminisha Priyota, someone who's attached to Rukmini and the queens of Dwarka. But better than them, Yashodaya Priyota, Subala Surit, the beloveds of the son of Yashoda, like Krishna's dear friends, like Subal and others. They're even more fortunate. But even more fortunate than those persons, he says, Ato Gopi Kanta Priyotaha, Se Sri Vrindavaneshwayeti Rasa, Vibhasradaka Saiva Murdani. That someone who's desiring, is worshipping Radha Krishna in the mood of the gopis, who wants to become a maidservant of Srimati Radharani. That's the topmost thing. So many, many different devotees are there, but we glorify the Vrajavasis for this reason. But Raghunath Das Goswami, in his next verse from Brajalila Stava, he speaks about something even better than that. He says that Tashakshana darshanato Takshakshana darshanato mriyante sukhena tasha sukhino bhavanti snigdha paramye Krita punya punjaha praneshwari preshta gunan bhajetam. He says, even more than this, I worship Radharani's Manjari servants, those beloved maidservants who become like dead bodies if they don't see Srimati Radharani for one moment, and who Sukena Tasya Sukino Bhavanti, they consider themselves to be happy when they see that Radharani is happy. These ladies are such very, very extraordinary personalities. This is the topmost of all devotees, and this is the nature of Braj. And this is these manjaris, these are the real fragrance of Braj. This is why Krishna is so very, very attached to Braj. So if we want to enter into Vrindavan, then we have to take shelter of the Vrajavasis. There's no question of doing any other thing. And so Srila Prabhupada's given us Krishna book. And so as Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, for those who want to constantly be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, they should read Krishna Bhavanamrita by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which is a book which is more confidential actually than Govinda Lilamrita actually. But what is the reason for this? Because we want to meditate on the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna-katha, Krishna nama, satya satya rasadam. Narottam Das Thakur is singing in this verse we're studying today that if we want to become a Vrajavasi, then we have to do a particular Krishna-katha. We have to be absorbed in a particular Krishna nama, satya satya rasadam, which is a Krishna-katha and a Krishna nama which is full of rasa. That's a Braja Loka Sangha Anukshana. That's the kind of Krishna-katha and Krishna Nam that we get in association with the residents of Vrindavan Dham. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Let me show you the verse again on the board. It's just a little bit of reading today. I hope we didn't lose anybody. Narottam Das Thakur says, Pritagabhasa joge dukkha maya vishaya bhage Vrajavasa Govinda Sevan Krishna Katha Krishna Nama Satya Satya Rasadam Vrajaloka Sangi Anukshan. Don't reside in an ordinary place. We want to reside in an extraordinary place. Maybe you're living in New York as Jaipur now, but go out and do Dham Seva. How do you do Dham Seva? By doing Nam Seva, by doing Krishna Katha and Krishna Nam. Satya Satya Rasadam. You'll establish that Dham and truth by doing Krishna Kirtan in the mood of the Vrajavasis. Hearing about them, doing the Kirtan in their mood, having Krishna Katha in their mood, it'll establish the holy Dham. Satya Satya Rasadam also indicates that we're going to establish the Dham in truth, in Satya, with Rasa, when we do Krishna Katha and Krishna Nam. So when devotees come to Jagannath Puri, we often tell them that you don't think that you're doing Dhambas just by coming here, but your Dhambas, Vrajavasa Govinda Sevan. It means you have to do Govinda Seva. And what Govinda Seva do you do? Krishna Katha, Krishna Nama, Satya Satya Rasadam. We do Dham Seva by doing Nam Seva. And that Dham Seva we do in New York by doing Kirtan. That Dham Seva we do in Jagannath Puri or Vrindavan today by doing Kirtan. In New York, it establishes Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, it reawakens Vrindavan. It takes away the covering that Prodamaya has put over it. It cuts through the Vaishnava aparats and things. It helps us to see the real Dham. So these are some of the meanings of this verse today from Narottam Das Thakur. I want to stop there. Sorry, I went a little longer than I meant. Siddha Hari Prabhu, do you want to share anything? Are you there?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm here. Prabhu, I was thinking at the very end, you mentioned how we re-established the Dham by holy name. The whole time when you were beginning to speak about this, the Panchanga Bhakti, I was recently hearing a class by Andhra Prabhu, and he was mentioning that how of all these 5 items, the Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that it is a nama-kirtana which is the most important. And in the beginning, you were giving a different presentation which I never heard before, which is also very nice to hear. That how one begins, it goes like in an ascending manner, beginning with sadhu sangha, and then developing some faith in Nam Kirtan, then Bhagavad Shravan, and then Dham, and then finally Murti Seva. And it makes a lot of sense because in one sense, one can do deity worship quite early. At the same time, to do deity worship with love and faith requires a lot more qualification. And so I really appreciate your connection at the end about how by chanting we revive the Dham, whether outside of Dham or whether being in Dham, we're reviving it back. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing these things. I had a question. My question was this, that we hear that...
Just give a reflection real quick on what you just said. That Jiva Goswami tells us we should do kirtan bhakti. We may do other angas of bhakti other than kirtan, but they all have to be connected with kirtan. So when Mahaprabhu, understanding that, when Mahaprabhu says sadhu sanganam kirtan bhagavat shravan dambasa murti seva, means that nam kirtan must be with all of them. And in another place, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that sadhu sangha nam kirtan means that we associate with devotees by doing nam kirtan. We serve the Vaishnavas by doing nam kirtan. So those two things are found in all the different angas. That's the foundational things of them. And go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Prabhu. My question was like, when we hear that during the pastimes of Lord Krishna, when Krishna went to Dwarka, he entered an aprakrita region of Dham. So it is saying that there is a Dham, and then there's also an aprakrita Dham in which Krishna, entered into when he left for Dwarka, for Mathura. And then we also hear that right now also when we go to Dham, there is an aspect of Dham which is aprakrita. But it seems these are another type of aprakrita than the aprakrita to which Krishna entered to. Or are those two the same? Is there like 3 different realms of Dham? There's a Dham which is... I hope you understand my question.
Yeah, I think I do. That's a really beautiful question. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes in a number of places in chapters 46 and 47 in the 10th canto some points that we were bringing out in our discussion on meeting Kurukshetra. He points out, he describes that within Vrindavan there's 2 chambers. There's a chamber of union and a chamber of separation. So one is something external and the other is very internal. Sometimes we go and we only see the chamber of separation. We don't see Krishna, but Krishna is actually personally present there. And in Narottam Vilas, Narahari Chakravarti Thakur has given a beautiful description of how Narottam Das Thakur would happen when he visited Vrindavan. What happened when he visited Navadvip. That he saw, first when he entered in, he saw everybody was crying and everything was really depressed because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left the world and everything was very bleak and gloomy. But then all of a sudden, he saw everybody doing kirtan. Everything was completely ecstatic. Mm-hmm. And he entered into another realm, an inner realm, the realm of union. And my Guru Maharaj described that this is possible for us. These things are present today. And it's a big subject about these hidden realms of Vrindavan, of the holy Dham. They are present for devotees. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Jaiva Dharma indicates that. The Skanda Purana indicates that. In Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda speaks about some devotees who are walking through Jagannath Puri and they're seeing, everything's really dirty and it's nasty like this. But then suddenly they see the trees of Vrindavan. They see the spiritual world. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also taught us that. We've seen that. And so there's descriptions like that in Jaiva Dharma. There's descriptions like that in a number of literatures. Also, Skanda Purana said that when Lord Shiva went to Jagannath Puri, he came to Chandanpur, which is on the bank of the Bhargavi River, and he sat down to do meditation. And Skanda Purana says suddenly he saw the trees and birds and animals of Vrindavan. He saw Radha Krishna became available to him. So that thing is there. If the devotee, if Krishna's in that realm, and the devotees can also enter into that realm. But just as we can't do bhajan without guru, we can't enter into the holy dham without guru either. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm. A
Very
little
deep.
bit. I would like to know more about it, but I guess I'll listen to some of your lectures if you already discussed them in detail in one of
It
your.
reminds me, I wrote an article about this some years ago in our Bindu magazine, where we spoke about these two chambers and we told the story about Narottam Das Thakur's visit to Navadvip. More or less what I just paraphrased, but you might find a little more clear. If you remind me in our WhatsApp chat, then I'll try to get on that. I feel bad because I think Jai Gore wanted something from our last chat, and I never did it. And I get a little overwhelmed with things. Okay.
Thank you,
Is
Prabhu.
that,
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank
and how
you.
about Radha Jeevan Gopal? Do you have anything you want to share?
Haribol. It seemed like a major theme of the talk today was how we can't really gain entrance to the Dham without the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So I was reflecting on my own experience. Those 4 months I was in Govardhan from September of 2022 until the end of January of this year. I had experiences where I was going in and out of the association of a particular Vrajavasi, who was a disciple of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And I just noticed on my own life, in my own sadhana, and how it was affected for the better when I was in her Sangha, and how I was actually able to catch some drop of the mood of the Vrajavasis when I was with her. Whereas when I was alone, trying to do my own thing, I just was suffering.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote 2 articles. I remember coming across them in the Harmonists. One was called Vrindavan Parikrama, the other was called Navadvip Parikrama. And I thought immediately, oh, this is going to be very interesting, all kinds of things, stories and something about the Dham. And there's no stories. And basically all that he talked about was sadhu sangha. And how when we go to the Dham, we have to be looking to Gurudev constantly. And associating, as you said, with some Vaishnava who's on a higher platform of bhajan. And then by getting their association, that bhajan comes to our hearts. Thank you, Prabhuji. Is Siddha Hari Prabhu being good to you?
He's always good. He's always amazing.
Is he still just eating his raw vegetables and stuff?
Because of my poor association, sometimes he indulges in other things.
Oh, really? Well, good for you. I think I feel sad thinking about him just eating some leaves and stuff.
Right now, his latest thing is banana and milk smoothies. Actually, the blender's running right now. That's what he's making right now.
All right. Like banana Prema-bhakti-candrika Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Manishwar, would you want to share anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for that class. I think I have one question about Dham Seva. So I think having resided most of my life outside of Dham, etc., it's fairly easy to do kirtan, it's fairly easy to do sadhu sangha in the sense that, you know, you call people over, you do kirtan at home, you do reading from Krishna book, etc. Is it as simple as you mentioned that to do Dham Seva, simply you've got to sit and chant at home, and therefore you meet that anga of Panchanga Bhakti? Or how can we practically do that outside of Vrindavan?
We need some special mercy in Prodamaya Devi. And Prodamaya gives us that mercy that we please the Vaishnavas and Gurudev. Someone may be sitting down in Vrindavan Dham, but they're actually living in New York. And someone else might be physically in New York, but really in Vrindavan. It's not just an external thing. My grandmother used to say that who is a Vrajavasi? Putana was born in Vrindavan. Kamsa was born in Vrindavan. But we don't consider them to be Vrajavasis. Vrajavas is a question of consciousness. So wherever we're physically residing, we want to be in Vrindavan. it was partly for that purpose that Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj, at the end of his life, he decided that he wanted to leave his body at Gita Nagari farm to show devotees that this is the holy Dham, and that they should have. It's not necessary to go back to Vrindavan or whatever, which is also practical too, because honestly, for a lot of devotees, India is really your sense, the weather, the germs, things. I just went to a doctor and found out that I've got like 30 years worth of parasites and things in my body, which has been causing me all kinds of health problems because of living in India. And I still want to live in India. That's where my service is, and I love the Dham. But it's difficult, I've seen, for a lot of Westerners especially. It requires some special situation. Whereas, like right now, we're here in Lithuania in New Gokul, and it's the Dham. And if you go to the it's the Dham. If you go to New Vrindavan, it's the Dham. If you go to Vrajavasis in Hungary, you feel the Dham there. And for Westerners, it's a nice situation. I think that's one reason why Prabhupada wanted to establish the Dham. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. And I think one follow-up question. So often I hear people talk about when doing seva or nam bhajan in the Dham, you get a kind of 1,000 times the benefit, etc. Is that also applicable to when the Dham's outside of the physical location of Vrindavan Dham in India?
Yeah, but we have to be in the Dham.
You have to be in consciousness.
Yeah, we can go to Tompkins Park and sit underneath that tree. We did kirtan under that tree a few times in New York. You can feel it. It's a very special thing. Jai Ghosh still here. He can probably tell us. They're going out and doing kirtan every day in New York and different places. And when you go to the same place on a regular basis, something happens to that place. We found that in Puri. We were doing Harinam every day. And one day I told the devotees, I said, we've been living in this house for a couple of years in this neighborhood in Jaipur. And I walk around, he said, it's kind of like a black and white movie. But as soon as we start doing Harinam, all of a sudden it becomes in color. It becomes completely ecstatic. And you just see everything different. All the residents there, they love you and they see you in a different way and they appreciate you so much more. That Dham, that kirtan, it's the best Dham seva. It opens up, it's our visa to enter into the Dham. But it means sincere chanting. And yes, my grandma spoke about how doing kirtan in Gaudiya, one gets thousands of times more benefit in a normal place. But it means being in the consciousness of that place too. And even if we're honestly, even if we're dull, if you go to Vrindavan and you just do kirtan, maybe you're not thinking so much about Vrindavan. I'll tell you a quick story. There used to be an internet cafe in front of Krishna Mandir. I can't remember the names of the devotees. They were followers of Ayendra, but were very close to Ayendra. Priti was in charge, this man's daughter. She was in charge of the internet cafe. And one day I'd gone in there, and I'm sitting in front of the computer, and some guy walks in, and this guy was dressed in jeans and Western clothes completely, and he really did not look like a devotee at all. And he really looked like he's from the West. And so he kind of caught my eye. I've been preaching to people for a long time. And he comes and sits down next to me on the computer. And he's working on the computer. I'm kind of looking over my shoulder, over his shoulder. What's he doing? And it's nothing devotional whatsoever. And so finally, I struck up a conversation. Said, "Where are you from?" So I'm from Chicago. I said, "Really? I was born in Illinois." And we start talking and this. And I said, "So what's that?" He said, "Well, I'm studying music in Chicago. And I came to India to study music. And we had a few extra days, and someone told me that I should come to this place called Vrindavan. So they told me what bus to get on. And I just got off the bus just outside here. And I came in to do some internet. And what is this Vrindavan anyway? It was like Krishna picked somebody up from Chicago, an American, dropped him right next to me. So I asked him, I said, "Well, do you have any plans today?" He said, "Well, no." I said, "Would you like to come with me?" And I just canceled on the spot all my plans. And I just took him to the main temples at Vrindavan and here and there. And it was quite an ecstatic experience for me too, to just having someone just dropped in my lap like that.
Yeah. That's crazy. Arrangements, definitely. Thank you. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaudiya. And let's see here, who else is here? Vikramakeshi Prabhu, do you want to share anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to thank you for wonderful katha. And maybe one question. You read that everything outside Vrindavan is mundane. And
Yes.
but yeah, and I'm just thinking about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Most of his time he spent outside of Vrindavan. I know you spoke about this, but maybe a few words.
Sure. Because the problem, and when you say something like that to Gaudiya Vaishnavas are very tricky. Because we have this philosophy called the Chincha Beta Beta, so you can like twist anything pretty much in one sense. But our philosophy is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always in Vrindavan. Prabhupada was always in Vrindavan. Although it seemed like he was in the Bowery and there's drunks out there and the stench of urine and vomit, and Prabhupada stepping over drunks and drug addicts and go to the loft where he was staying. Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always in Vrindavan. So yes, any place outside of Vrindavan is miserable. Another meaning of that is any place where we're not thinking of Vrindavan. That's a miserable place. We don't want to be in that place. And Prabhupada therefore did some amazing things which not all Gaudiya Vaishnavas appreciate. Prabhupada named the deities in Los Angeles Rukmini Dwarkadish. But Dwarkadish in Dwarka doesn't have a peacock feather. He doesn't have a flute. It's Radha Krishna in Los Angeles. And how that is, that's another long discussion based on Alita Madhav and some kathas my Guru Maharaj spoke. I could say something about that. But aside from that, Prabhupada established the deities of Radha Parthasarathi in Delhi, Radharani with Krishna when he's on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he established deities of Radha Paris Ishvara, Radha London Ishvara, to show that Krishna can be anywhere in the Dham, and that Krishna is the Lord of London, Krishna is the Lord of Paris, and that Vrindavan is manifested there. From a strict understanding of Rasa Tattva, it's not correct to think like that, because we want Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas described there's different benefits in chanting different names of Krishna. And if we glorify Krishna as Jagannath or Kritibasa, it's that personality was another phrase, Jagat Karta, the creator of the universe. Those are activities of Paramatma. Those are activities that he does in his Vishnu expansion. And those names don't grant the same benefit that his Braj Leela names do, like Govinda Nandan, like Yashoda Nandan, Nanda Nandan, Radha Braj Bihari, Radha Kanta, and others. Those names are more in the mood of Braj. So in that sense, strictly what Srila Prabhupada did may seem to be objectionable. But Srila Prabhupada was combining two things in a very brilliant way. He was combining our ultimate philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that Krishna is everywhere and Vrindavan is everywhere, along with a sense of preaching in a way that nobody had ever done before. So you have Radha Paris Ishvara, Radha London Ishvara, like that. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Mataji, do you have anything you want to share?
I just wanted to share, I don't have question. I just wanted to share my just recent experience about the topic you mentioned today. It is how much is important to please Vaishnavas. In our hometown, we don't have temple, we don't have even center. We just have one rented place, which is for Sunday feast. And I was like in a mood for some period. Why should I go to Sunday feast? I'm, devotee from that and that year, and Sunday feast is not so important for me. But then I realized that devotees are asking me, "Oh, you were not there on the Sunday feast. Where were you? we missed you. Actually, I felt like they were missing me. Then I realized that it is really important that I go to Sunday feast. Just if the lecture is maybe not for me, it is some basic beginner's lecture, then that I will receive the mercy of the devotees just if they see me, just if I see them and they see me, and we have some exchange. It can be just a smile or obeisances or something very simple. Then I realized that Krishna is much, much more pleased.
I've been having a similar meditation here in New Gokul Dham. It's a very nice place materially. It's all grass and trees and hills and very quiet and like that. But the real special thing is the devotees are also dedicated to coming together and hearing and chanting. And it is such good association. When you're on the road a lot, as we've been, you end up taking rest a lot of times at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and you get into really terrible sadhana. I'm just being very honest, it's really, really hard. But the devotees here is like everybody, pretty much everybody, comes together for Mangal Artik every day, and then later for Guru Puja and Darshan Artik and Bhagavatam class. And by doing that, they're serving each other. They're serving the community, because when you come together like that, it really gives a sense of unity. Just like Jaigori, I've been watching what he's doing too. He's in New York doing kirtan. And when devotees show up for the kirtan, they're part of the community, isn't it, Jaigori? Nod your head, yes, yeah. And if they don't show up, you miss them. And by showing up, you really feel some bonding with them, and you feel some love, and it's real community. So it's an important thing to do. Sometimes we think, I'm just too tired, I've just got too many things to do. And maybe we are too tired, or maybe we do have too many things to do. Sometimes it's like that. But in spite of that, if we can come together, we please the Vaishnavas. They saw, where were you? We missed you at the Sunday feast. One thing I really appreciate about the two of you, I want to just comment also, is that you like to cook for devotees. And I can see that you really like doing that. And for me, that's one of the best services. It's a service that not everybody glorifies so much. Usually they glorify the kirtan leaders or the managers, the book distributors, or the people who give class. And if the prasadam's really good, maybe they say, oh, glories to the cooks one time or something. But you really, really get the mercy of the devotees. And that kind of service is ahoitiki seva. There's no motivation for it. When you give a class, everybody claps their hands and says, we want to thank you for coming. But they don't do that so often for the cooks. And it's hard work. It's a lot harder, actually. Well, you have to learn verses and whatever to give class, but it's a lot of hard work to cook and get to early. Seshadev, I remember for one yatra we had in Puri, he was making over 300 chapatis every day with one assistant, 2 persons making 300 chapatis. No chapati machine, no nothing. It was like over 40 degrees. It was summertime, and he was getting up every day at 2 o'clock in the morning to cook for all those devotees so they would have chapatis. That's love. I'll never forget. That's really beautiful. So I saw that in you guys too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jaigori, do you want to share anything now that you're back with us again?
At 4:31.
Sure, bro.
David, crosses.
And
then if you get too many leaves, I'm going to touch you.
let's see, I had a couple of notes here. One thing I
That
thought was really
sweet
sweet was
just go and check.
I think it was from Gopal Chankli. You shared the
Who else better be?
how
Somehow you got an echo.
what's that?
There's an echo. You're speaking twice.
Oh, really?
You're speaking, and you're also speaking. I don't know, but
Someone else is in the room. That's
Wake up.
and actually you might know him. It's Pran.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hey everybody. How you doing?
He was there having a little meeting, but oh yeah, you were speaking about how the flags were blowing towards the direction of Krishna's fragrance. That was
That's you, man.
really, really sweet.
I like that point a lot. It kind of made me think of Jagannath Puri also, because they say the flag blows the opposite direction of the wind.
You guys are.
But I was thinking about, you kind of addressed it when you answered Manish Prabhu's question, but I was thinking I kind of have a doubt that how is it that
I would say just like
you know, if when we're in the Dham, you know, physically, and we can't even have the you know, proper absorption when we're in the Dham, then how is it that we're going to be able to manifest the Dham mentally when we're not?
Well, we want to have the mercy of Sadhguru. How do we get that mercy? First, we always quote, Tate Krishna Bhajan Koti Guru, that we want to do our Krishna Bhajan for the pleasure of Gurudev. So the foundation of our Krishna Bhajan, we have two types of reading. We read privately, and that private reading is kind of our own exploration, our own world that we're in. We can do what we want, pick up whatever book we want, go to whatever chapter we want. It's very personal, intimate. And then we have a public reading, where we have Bhagavatam class and things, and that's a social kind of thing. And the two nourish each other. When we do private reading, then when we come together in a bigger group, we share the private reading we have with the other devotees. And likewise, when we have a public reading, then when we're doing our private reading, some of the thoughts come from some of the comments come from the public reading to our private reading also. So similarly, we have nama-kirtana like that. We have our personal japa, which is private, which nourishes our kirtan, and the kirtan nourishes our japa. The kirtan is so something public, and the japa is something private. But that japa for us is very special because that is our connection with our Gurudev, and that's our special service for him, and that's very foundational. So I've experienced, I think many Vaishnavas would agree, that when you're in the Dham and you're chanting japa, if you I just don't have time today, I'm just going to chant my japa in the rickshaw on my way to Loy Bazaar, and I'm going to walk through Loy Bazaar chanting my japa, looking at the different things because I got to purchase a bunch of stuff today, and your japa is really not very good, then you'll find a lot of times that day you attract bad association. You may attract some monkey who wants to come and steal your glasses or your phone or whatever. You may attract some thief or something, or someone who wants to cheat you in one of the shops or something, because your consciousness is foundational. But on the other hand, if you're chanting in a proper way during your japa, then you're connecting, you're pleasing your Gurudev. And then you have another kind of foundation. So many wonderful, amazing people come. And even if some monkey steals your phone or something, you just laugh. And you have some ecstatic realization about it. It doesn't really bother you because you're able to tolerate things because of that foundational japa. So I would suggest like that when we're in the Dham, always wherever we're at, we want to be in the Dham always. Our japa is a very foundational aspect of that private japa and our private reading, our private contemplation. It's not just, and going out also in a group and doing things. That's the two serve each other, as I was mentioning. But this one is very foundational, very helpful. Is that helpful, Prabhuji?
Because then they did check.
Yeah, I think
I get that. If you finish 2 rounds,
so that
I went with with the versions, and maybe did maybe both of us maybe 16 rounds and we came back at 6.
So that consciousness of being like you can
before.
I guess sometimes you just feel like
So you can, if you finish your round in the morning.
I guess you say the Dham is.
It ends at 9.
I mean, we see the Dham through the eyes of Sadhguru. So we can be in the Dham and not in the Dham, and we can be like you were mentioning that before.
We can't see the sadhu. We can't unless we purify our heart. And then we.
Yeah, I think 40 years is a lot easier for me because I want to do it with you guys.
Thank you.
A little distracting, the voice in the background.
Let's do.
Oh, stop. Okay. You just turned your volume off. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Krishna. Anybody here in the room want to share anything? Greta, Krishna Kun?
We want to do a particular krishna-katha, a particular Krishna name. It's okay. No, it's okay. No, I don't want to share anything.
Okay, but I don't think they can hear you, Krishna.
No, we don't hear actually.
Greta, you got to just walk over here. You don't have to be on the camera.
Actually, I don't have much. For me, this topic was very exalted, and I tried to listen. Sometimes I felt anxious that I'm not able to relate or think about my own example or how can I do something practically. I was just listening and trying to put it in my heart, and yeah, I feel it's so high for me.
My grandma used to sometimes say that he'd speak of himself and very humbly say, I'm not qualified to speak this. And of course, if he would say that, then what to speak of myself? And he said, and you're not qualified to hear it. He said, but I have to. And he said, don't worry, just try to listen. And as we were reading from Prema-bhakti-candrika Saraswati Thakur, he's saying that Krishna becomes pleased with someone. You get mercy from Krishna just by trying to hear these subject matters. Krishna becomes pleased by that. Krishna becomes indebted to such a devotee. So it's a nice thing to meditate upon. And something will come to us if we do. Okay? Lila Purushottam Prabhu, do you want to share anything?
Krishna. Yeah, I have quite a few questions actually. I was really surprised on the beginning with this hierarchy, if one could name it like this, between these 5 most potent angas. It was quite revolutionary to hear it like this, like that they have the krama, the sequence of maybe in that connection, because I had practically the same question as Manish Prabhu had, like what does it constitute to live in the Dham mentally? Because Vishwanath Chakravarti, he uses that term on the different places, like in the commentary of this Seva Sadhaka Rupena, he also states the same thing. That if we can't live in Vraja physically, then we should live there mentally, and it's like equal. So that was my big question. What's the actually qualification? When I can say that I'm living in the Dham mentally, and being it not just our imagination or something, but being of some substance actually to our sadhana, to our practice, that we can really think I'm doing my bhakti, living mentally in the Dham.
2 things come to my mind. One is that we want to see Krishna's hand everywhere. Tatenu kampam susamikshimano. Even in whatever suffering, any problems that I have, that Krishna's doing this, there's some purpose for this, I should be trying, what does Krishna want me to do? And if we're doing that, because that's the Vrindavan consciousness, everyone is thinking of Krishna everywhere, constantly. Similarly, if wherever we're living in the Western countries or wherever, but if we're thinking about Krishna, then that's also Vrindavan. That's really Vrindavan. Thank you, Manish. I can't look at this right now. Oh, you found this thing about the fragrance and the flowers. That's cool. Thank you. So devotees want to, you should save that before we turn off the Zoom chat, because it's going to disappear afterwards. I just did a screenshot of it real quick. I can share it in WhatsApp also. Another thought that came to me, which is more practical, that Greta might appreciate, but she's looking for something practical, is that Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati, he said in one article, one lecture actually, which I often quote, that I pray that I may see my Gurudev in every person. I pray that I may see my Gurudev in every animal, in every tree, in every rock, in every mountain, in every river. I pray that I may see my Gurudev in every year, every month, every week, every day, every hour, every second. And if I don't see my Gurudev, then I'm going to fall prey to the bad desire to be Guru myself. What does it mean, the bad desire to be Guru? It means that I want to be Krishna. Because if I'm thinking I'm Krishna, I'm the enjoyer, then how can I be in Vrindavan? So, yeah, I can walk around and be trying to think of blue skin, peacock feather, shaman, this, I try to be thinking of Krishna's form, but it's a little artificial trying to do that. But if I walk around and I'm thinking of Gurudev, and what am I thinking of Gurudev? I'm not just thinking of Gurudev. Gurudev likes pizza. Gurudev, has this kind of body, but I'm thinking of Gurudev's heart and how Gurudev really wants to help the conditioned souls and how he has love for so many different persons. That's one thing that always strikes me about advanced Vaishnavas when I see them. They have so much genuine love and affection for other people. And even they may be, some seemingly mundane person or not a devotee or anything, but they really show genuine love and affection for them. Because they have this love for Krishna. It's manifested in that way. Bhakti-Vinod says that in Chaitanya Sikshamrita. When we begin to have love for Krishna, that manifests as love for everybody else. So I see my Gurudev in that way. And I want to see my Gurudev. I want to show that love to everybody because I see my Gurudev there. I see this is my Gurudev's desire. So when we say that we're seeing something, it's not just a question with the eyes, but we're seeing with the heart. We're seeing what I learn in my relationship with my Gurudev, what he likes, what he loves, what she likes, what she loves. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, many more. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is really deep answer. Actually, my conceptions were so much more external, but still I pronounce them to ask you, because what is my limited observation, what really on many places helped me, and you mentioned actually even those places, like what helped me to feel like in the Dham, probably even without like really some, I don't know, conscious endeavor that now I should feel somehow, or any in that sense, where the places where that are strongly connected with the worship of Radha and Krishna, meaning like New Vrajadam, for example. It's so observable, I would say. The same for Goloka Dham, actually. When I just in the morning, when you walk around the Goloka Dham, you're just thinking, it's just so easy to think, oh, this stream here is like a Yamuna river, and this place is so nice for Rasa Lila or whatever. Well, one can speculate like anything. But the thing is that somehow you are emotionally involved in it's the environment connected with that strong feeling that the center of that place of the consciousness of the people that are living there is centered around the pleasing Radha and Krishna, which is expressed externally. It's expressed in the form of deity worship as the Sri Murti Seva. And I had actually, in one sense, I could mention even my little garden. Like as soon as Radha Shama Sundar came and we started to worship them, it really changed the whole conception on my gardening and everything. Before I was always thinking like, I have to bring everything on the altar. Only then it's offered. All the roses had to end up on the altar, or all the berries and everything. But now it's so much easier to just look into the garden and even endeavor to work on having the garden nicely arranged, nicely treated and everything, so that they can have a like nice space for their pastimes, that it's to really perceive it like that's their place of their pastimes.
Before Radhisham came, you were going out to your garden and reading verses from Manasamhita to the plants, right?
Yeah, it was actually, it was much more connected with, you know, like concepts like self-sufficiency, and we have our own food and like these things, but it didn't stimulate these thoughts of how directly that space can be pleasing to Radha and Krishna. And the Murti was like a trigger, like a stimulant to create that meditation, that conception, that vision.
That's a beautiful thing to share. Thank you. And that's why really devotees are really holistic, and they're really eco-friendly. And other people, I mean, you talk about permaculture. Permaculture is a very holistic science, but it fails in this one regard, because it's not appreciating whoever grew the plants, whoever sent them. It's not appreciating God as a person. But in Krishna consciousness, not only are we appreciating, but he's living here in the temple, and we're growing his vegetables for him and for her. I mean, it's very holistic.
Okay, may I still have some more
more
points?
Just briefly.
Now it will shift quite in a different direction. Actually, we get quite some instructions in this matter, like that we should live in the Dham. But then I'm thinking of the pastime of Jagadananda Pandit, as he wanted to go to Vrindavan, as it is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the instructions that he got from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who were rather like a warning, actually. Who were like, don't stay there too long, don't associate with the Vrajavasis. It sounds almost like a contrary what we've got today, actually. It's like, don't associate with Vrajavasis intimately, just stay under the shelter of Sanatana Goswami and quickly come back. So could you comment on that?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, especially in light of that purport where Prabhupada speaks about how Pundik Vidyanidhi, Gadadhar Pandit, Mukunda, Sri Damodar, Roy Ramananda, Sikhi Mahiti, none of them, there's no record of them ever going to Vrindavan. And those are the most intimate associates of Mahaprabhu, Gadadhar Pandit and Sri Damodar, Roy Ramananda. Those are the most intimate devotees, and they no record they ever went to Vrindavan. But they're completely in Vrindavan. You read what they're singing and chanting for Mahaprabhu, and their consciousness, they're completely in Vrindavan. So I at the risk of missing something which may be obvious to someone else, I can be corrected. Jagadananda Pandit perhaps may be somewhat representing us. That he seems like he's on a lower platform, especially in that he chastised Sanatana Goswami in Vraj. He didn't appreciate why he was wearing this cloth from, I think it's Mukunda Saraswati. Someone said it should be cloth from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he told him to stay away from the Vrajavasis. I think that's a relevant thing for us today. Prabhupada also said like that. When I want to associate with the Vrajavasis, I think I want to associate with Ayendra Prabhu. Associate with devotees in a 24-hour kirtan. I want to associate with devotees who are serving Radhasham Sundar. But I don't necessarily think I want to associate with the rickshaw wallahs or the farmers or the ditch diggers or whatever in Braj. Some of whom are very difficult to understand. They get drunk quite often. There's a lot of alcoholism in Braj. They're not good association. They'll steal money and things from you. And if you associate with them intimately, what'll happen, you'll make some offense. So better we do associate and we just show some respect, and we just feel I just can't understand them. They're very, very special, exalted persons, but I can't understand them. I see sometimes some things which are wrong, perhaps, and therefore I'm going to practice upeksha, neglect, and keep my distance. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's actually, it also explains nicely this because I really liked your comment on your understanding of seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi, that it might be more relevant for us to see and focus on the Gaura Lila Svarup of the Vrajavasis, and even like you mentioned, that bridge of our spiritual master, like seeing, like we might have the conception that he's Vrajavasi, but still what's available to us is his present Svarup, is his sadhaka Svarup, and that we want to associate with and serve and know the mood and everything. And yeah, so that makes.
They're so merciful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're the same personality as in Braj Leela. Rupa Manjari is now Rupa Goswami. It's the same personality, but there's a difference. The difference is that Rupa Goswami is much more merciful.
Yeah, and even available in the sense, because we have so much instructions from him. We have something tangible for us, like we can really associate with him through the writings, through the instructions, and like that. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I was also thinking that Narottam Das Thakur also lived only a certain period of time in Vraja under the guidance of Jiva Goswami, and was initiated by Lokanath Goswami. But then he went back to Keturi Gram, and practically the rest of his life he didn't leave Keturi Gram. He was that was his how you call it, is Prabhu Datta Desh, something like that. Yeah, that's the term, or like the place where what was given to you by your Guru Jana. And also, one more last thing, I'm sorry. Because it's so easy to just, open the book, open the Prema-bhakti-candrika, come to the verse 19. You can maybe there in a few minutes, in 15 minutes of reading, you can be there and just read, live in Vraja and associate with Vrajavasis. But my question is, like, if I remember my example, I was always very much eager to go to the Dham, but the main point was to have the association first of Indra Prabhu first years, and then I was wanting to come for the retreats to Govardhan to have your association, and like it was always connected with Vaishnava, and my question is, like, is that well, how to, like in a sense, one could say that the Dham itself, in a way, was always a secondary thing, actually. Although I have it strongly connected. To have the association with Indra Prabhu, you had to go to Vrindavan. And you gain the experiences and in the exchange with the Vaishnava, and then even with the Dham, actually, one could say. So, but in that sense, if I remember these samskaras that were created, I have it much more strongly connected with the Vaishnava, being either you, Indra Prabhu, rather than the Dham itself. So is that okay, or is it?
When my godbrother Raghava Pandit Prabhu wanted to go to Vrindavan, my Guru Maharaj just like roasted him every day, class for like a few weeks, every class. And he wants to go to Vrindavan. What are you going to see in Vrindavan, Baba? You can't this. And he just really making the point that Vrindavan means hearing Hari-katha from sadhu. And he's saying, you're already hearing from your guru. What's the point? Why do you want to go there? And then at one point, Raghava told him, he said, well, Guru, and then finally he was going, and Guru Maharaj said, okay, where are you going to stay? He said, well, Guru Maharaj, I'm going to associate mostly with Ayendra. And when Raghava told him, Guru Maharaj said, oh, that is very good. Guru Maharaj said, he's very good association. So there's many things we could comment about this. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati telling devotees that when you do Brajmandal Parikrama, it's not that you try to see Vamsivat and Radhakun and Shamakun and Govardhan. Rather, you should look at the sadhu. And you should try to see through his eyes what they're saying. We should do kirtan with them. It's a much, much more powerful thing. And frankly, even if it's a really good sadhu, I think it's better for devotees. I think they get more out of going to some place like New Brajadam or New Gokul or something in the West and hearing high-class Harikatha in a very intimate sangha, as opposed to going to the Dham in India, but just having pizza and kind of wandering around, taking baths in the ocean and having a good time and things. And I've seen it in devotees' lives, the impact that they experience in the West and the Dham. It can be more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with your permission, we'll go ahead and finish off right now. I'm not sure what's happening next.
Yeah, I believe.
Well, Krishna Kun says we should be okay. I'm trying. I kind of put my meeting Kurukshetra classes on hold a little bit because that's just a little complicated. And these other classes in the evening, those are in the morning, and that's a little difficult. But we'll see. I want to get back on those again too. There's a lot more we want to share about that.
And the classes that you are giving now, they are like unshareable. They don't record it or anything.
They told me that we can share them and we can record them, but they said very strictly no one from Czech is allowed to listen to them.
That I can understand.
Krishna Kun says she has audio recordings. And I don't know if there's some way they can do, Greta, do you know, can they make a video?
There in the temple?
Yeah, like live streaming?
Yes.
She says they can. Tomorrow morning I'll be giving class, which would be at what, 7:30 in the morning, our time here, 7:45 probably, which is 6:45 your time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who else's time. All these times it gives me a big headache. Central European
live stream on Facebook or where is it?
Do you know, Greta? We'll do it.
We can do on Facebook or on Google as well.
Or YouTube.
They have a website also. So maybe Krishna Kun could post a link or something possibly tomorrow. I will try that. I'm not going to guarantee anything.
I can,
Sure.
Tomorrow actually is about Sadhu Dham. It's famous. 9th chapter, 9th canto. Similar subject to today. All right. So thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Kori Vaishnava.